They're making a live-action Winnie the Pooh movie, and it looks incredible. Christopher Robin is the new movie with Ewan McGregor as the star of it. We got some new some new photos from some stills this week exclusively to Entertainment Weekly. So thank you guys over there for those. And this movie looks fantastic. I'm a huge Winnie the Pooh fan, or at least I was growing up. I didn't really catch up enough these days, or like, I don't know, get a piglet tattoo on my butt or anything like that, like a lot of modern Pooh fans do. But there's something really whimsical and wonderful about this film. I'm warped, just roll with it. And I really like the way this looks. Let's pull this up again. So Ewan McGregor in this film, it takes place in 1949. He plays Christopher Robin, who is, the boy who basically created all these characters in his head or connected them with them in some capacity. And he is now an efficiency manager at a luggage company. Yes. And he's having a rough lunch break and a bad day, and he looks up from a park bench, and his childhood toy has come to life to return to see him. So it's, it's kind of like Hook or Drop Dead Fred, or maybe like a really, gentle Ted. So this is
Ted.
Yeah, Gentle Ted. This is his awful day-to-day, completely removed of all the whimsy and joy that you have of being a child. He's got a daughter who obviously has, is still in that world, but he's gone from it. He's lost, and I think Disney explores this theme a lot. We see it a lot with some of their older characters. If you look at something like Up, it's about this guy who basically is shunning innocence and childhood and adolescence, and he's grumpy until some little boy comes in his life, and might as well be Winnie the Pooh in this scenario. But Ewan McGregor is Christopher Robin as an old man in this story, and we've seen that explored. Domhnall Gleeson played him in a movie last year, but to this direction, straight up, with this ratty, adorable Pooh.
I am gonna barf tears out of my eyes watching this movie.
It's so great. I mean, we're getting little shades of Paddington here, but this is if you don't feel something seeing that, you're a replicant or a dead person.
Yeah, you just failed the Voight Comp test.
Yeah,
you're gonna be
it's just
tired.
horrible. So,
but look, he got those friends too.
Yeah, so let's read the synopsis here. It's basically, in the heartwarming Christopher Robin, the young boy who embarked on countless adventures in the 100-acre wood with his band of spirited and lovable stuffed animals has grown up and lost his way. Now, it's up to his childhood friends to venture into our world and help Christopher Robin remember the loving and playful boy who is still inside. That sounds gross. But look at these characters here.
Look at these wrecks.
So
I love them.
Here's Pooh and Piglet and Eeyore and Tigger, and what I love about them is that they are very, very, very toy-like. They look like something that would actually be on a shelf or an old antique shop, right? They look used, they look old.
I feel like they kind of tweaked the Disney designs a little bit to make them more like stuffed animals that would have existed in 1949, as opposed to the more 90s aesthetic. That, they don't look like you bought them at the Disney store. They look like they were sold at some funky old British toy shop.
Yeah. So Ewan McGregor, who plays Christopher Robin in the movie, says in those older stories, Christopher Robin purveys a lot of wisdom, and through the way he deals with Pooh and Eeyore run through a lot of philosophical questions, and Christopher Robin is there to answer them somehow. And I think that's largely he's just lost any of that childish wisdom, and he's a bit stuck. He's just very work-minded and doesn't have any time for play. I suppose that's what the film's about, finding his relationship with his younger self again. So that's obviously a theme that keeps running there, but I think that something that's important to bring up here, that you talk about there, the sort of philosophical questions, is that Winnie the Pooh and his merry band of weirdos that he hangs out with are all fundamentally broken.
Oh, they're
people.
a wreck. They're awful.
They are neurotic, depressed, self-indulged, food addicted. Tigger is basically on coke, if we're going to get to the brunt of it.
No, they're like a residential treatment center full of stuffed animals.
Yeah, and I mean, this is not like a novel theory. The entire books and theories have been written about how sort of the Pooh characters represent all the different psychosis and neuroses that adults go through. And it's really interesting to perceive it from that perspective, because I think that taking those tendencies and approaching an adult who's removed from his innocence and having a childlike toy remind him of what's really wrong with him is really interesting. I have been connected to the Winnie the Pooh stories and franchise and series since I was a little kid. There was a show I watched when I was very, very young.
It'd be kind of weird if you got into Winnie the Pooh last year.
Yeah, that'd be weird. I think we have footage of it here, but this was the first Winnie the Pooh show that I watched. It was in, do we have this? We should. Maybe not. We do. It's somewhere. So the first show I ever watched about Winnie the Pooh was basically a live action show on the Disney show where they walked around matte paintings that were based on the illustrations from the books. The toys on the shelf here effectively came to life. These are costume men, and it used puppets and green screens and all sorts of stuff. But what I liked about it was that unlike Sesame Street or something like that, this almost entirely took place in this world, in the 100 Acre Wood, which was a fake, imagined place, but believable enough to be real because, you know, it's the woods. But all these characters would interact, and they were kind of nightmarish because, you know, Pooh at the end of the day is a pretty selfish, gluttonous man, and then you know, Piglet is just out of her mind, and Rabbit is basically a control freak, completely insane. The Owl is the most actually dude on the internet. Like Eeyore is constantly bummed out and suicidal. Like there's a lot to unpack here. But in being introduced to those characters at such a young age taught me one, to kind of look at the toys on my own shelf in a way that I hadn't until Toy Story again. But two, to really respect the artistry and craft that went into this world. And I think there's something incredibly timeless about it. And so seeing it revisited and being brought out for a brand new audience and generation makes me really happy.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited about this, knowing what it's about, the Christopher Robin movie. I mean, I thought it was, so if you read the old Winnie the Pooh books, the whole thing is that he's reading, or like the author A.A. Milne is like reading story or making up stories for like a young kid who I think is Christopher Robin, and it's like basically making up stories about his stuffed animals. I thought it was something like that, like it was Finding Never Neverland or whatever, or they did like a Beatrix Potter movie that was Mrs. Potter. I thought it was about like sort of that meta story of like, oh, the author, like the grown-ups don't care about the actual stuffed animals, they want a story about how the books got made. I'm like, that's cool, I guess, but no, it's actually like, I like that it's basically Ted but heartfelt.
Yeah.
We are both major champions of the Paddington films. Paddington 2 is coming out real soon. Everyone, please go see it. I think it's sort of the Godfather 2 of Paddington movies.
Yeah, you can rent that. That's
everyone keeps thinking we're joking about Paddington. Those are good movies. You got to go see Paddington and Paddington 2. But no, like I'm happy to see this kind of trend. This looks like an earnest movie. This looks like a very genuine, heartfelt movie that's not just trying to be like, you know, saccharine or like a quick cash in. It looks like it's made for, you know, generations of people who grew up with Winnie the Pooh. So
yeah, it's also kind of like a really warped like Obi-Wan and Chewbacca film in some ways, which I'm kind of into. Oh hey, thanks for watching our video about Pooh, the adorable bear, and not the thing that comes out of you. I'm Brian Altano, and Up at Noon is a show we do every week on Thursday at noon Pacific time, where you can see such hits as the time we unboxed a Star Wars Build-A-Bear. It's scarier than you think. And also, a God of War plushie that's cuter than you think. Really just a mixed bag of things that you think that you might be wrong about. Up at noon every week, Thursday, noon Pacific time on IGN, YouTube, Twitch, and other platforms. Enjoy it, watch it with your friends, tell your family to come over, and make a big pot pie.